Good evening, friends. Myself Gaurav. Friends, let's talk about uh, what's happening in the world beside this pandemic, coronavirus 2019. Let us put some light on economic and financial news that is being undergoing recently. So, friends, recently I came across a debate which was going on Times Now in its program Upfront, hosted by Rahul Shiv Shankar. Uh, he, while talking to Stephen Bannon, the former White House chief strategist, while talking to him, he asked about many questions that is it fit that India has called off trade ties with China is in a controlled manner. On that issue, Mr. Bannon has lauded India's move and has appreciated Mr. Modi and even called him a hero. That's very wonderful to know that our Prime Minister of India, is being acknowledged worldwide, especially by the United States. So, friends, before we go deeper into that subject, let me tell you that what is the exact figure of India and China, that is technically called as Sino-India trade ties, bilateral ties. So, as per that, India and China have touched US 89.6 billion business among themselves in 2017 and 18, and this is the latest report which I could find on the internet, with the trade deficit widening to US 62.9 billion in China's favor. That is one point to be noted down. Our government, citing the pandemic of COVID-19, recently took a decision. I don't know whether it was taken in haste or some introspection was done upon it. So, government took a decision to scrutinize and curb Chinese investment to prevent opportunistic takeover of Indian companies due to current COVID-19 pandemic. This is the reason that is being given by the government to curb the trade ties between Sino-India uh, trade treaties. So, friends, we need to understand that China is one of the largest manufacturing hub in the entire planet, and not only the largest manufacturing hub, but it's also selling its goods at very cheap and reasonable rates. That is why uh, in electronic market we can see that it is being overwhelmed by Chinese goods. You must have been using any of the Chinese electronic gadget, whether be it in form of mobile, your earphone, or a lighting, anything. It could be anything. So China has developed itself to that extent that it is able to uh, reaffirm its shattered economy on its own, depending upon its production capacity. China has made it that capable itself. So, as far as India is concerned, India has all the potential to become one of the leading manufacturer in the whole globe. But citing the government policies, uh, people are still roaming jobless, unemployed here due to lack of infrastructures that actually need to exist. Setting up of more industries, setting up of more manufacturing units, setting up of more marketing infrastructure will actually give rise to employment in India for the jobless youth. But we need to understand that this is the government that has given the green flag for FDI, which was actually introduced by the previous UPA government. This government, when came into existence in 2014, it gave green flag to foreign direct investment, and not only gave the green flag to it, it also increased its percentage in many sectors. The FDI was allowed up to cent %. This was the decision taken by this government, which used to which used to oppose this policy of the government when it was in opposition. Anyways, the politics apart, let's speak and talk upon factual things here. As per the latest survey, I can also find that Chinese investment in HDFC banks, Chinese investment in HDFC banks have risen up to from 0.8% to 1%. There is a rise of 0.2% of Chinese takeover in HDFC bank. This is a one grave issue of concern, which we need to actually introspect before we start speaking a lot and making some sweeping remarks against the trade ties between India and China. Well, as per the study, it took a lot to find these facts. As per the study, it is being worldwide told that India today is in a dire straits and desperately needs additional investment from every possible source. That is one true which cannot be denied or ducked. So India actually needs more money to be pushed into its economy to uplift its stature, which is being going down very drastically, especially after this coronavirus era will end. You will eventually come to see that our economy will be in a very shattered state, and it won't be an easy task to recompile it and reinforce it. So at this time India actually needs more and more money to be pushed into its economy. But before we start spreading our hands against the IMF or any other money providing organization, be it World Bank, Swiss Bank, etc., etc., we need to understand that already 1,75,000 crore rupees was drawn out from the RBI's exchequer by this government before, much before this pandemic was came into existence on this planet. So that at that time we were given the, I won't say it as excuse, we were given the reason that our economy needs a boost, and these 1.75 lakh crore rupee will go into economy, and it will enhance the liquidity of banks and other financial sectors that exist in India. So it's literally amusing to know that after getting that 1.75 crore 1.75 lakh crore rupees from the Reserve Bank of India, if the government hasn't pushed it into India's economy, then where it has gone? And if the government has actually pushed it into Indian economy, then why we are not able to see the rise of economy in our country that has been dipping down day by day? You can also witness the pathetic stage of Indian rupee against the US dollar. The US dollar is getting stronger day by day, while the Indian rupees is taking huge blow on every coming day. Well, let's come to the next point. I will tell you. Uh, since US former chief strategist was talking about it and lauding Prime Minister Modi, which is actually a very good gesture to observe that India's Prime Minister is being lauded globally. What I'm now trying to tell you, that if we snap off our ties with the China's by means of trade or be it anything else, what will be its ramifications? If China stops sending its goods into Indian markets and we become say boycotters of Chinese goods, will it actually help us and our economy is a big question to be debated upon. China has actually given Indian markets a boost. While we import goods from China, we sell it in Indian markets. We take it at a very reasonable or very cheap rate from China, and we sell it at a very uh, good profit of margin in India. This has been the trend since these import export between India and China has increased during last uh, 2 decades, I presume 2 decades. And snapping off trade ties with China will eventually give rise to many other issues that need to be addressed by the government and also to be considered by the government before it actually takes place. There is a route passing through China which goes to Amarnath pilgrimage. What if China stops that? What if China actually boycotts Indian market and doesn't sell its goods into India? India will eventually fall short of many ready-made manufactured goods. India has the capacity to manufacture, but it's not up to the bench or it's not up to the mark that will satisfy the needs of Indian consumers. It actually need to lift above expectations so that we can meet the real demands of Indian consumers. India is in a very dire state when it comes to manufacturing because there are hardly uh, automobile sector companies or machinery manufacturing companies which are actually and purely Indian. You may count it on your fingers. When it comes to automobile, it's Tata, Mahindra and Mahindra, and Hero is a Japanese company with partnership in India. So you can count it on your finger. There are very less companies and manufacturing units of automobiles, machineries, and anything else besides the agrarian goods. India actually needs to boost its manufacturing capacity in order to meet the demand of Indian consumers, and if not, India is going to fall short upon demand versus supply chain that will give rise to a huge crisis in this country. So, what will be the resolution of this problem? It can be resolved by setting up of more and more manufacturing units, setting up of more and more industries, setting up of more and more MSMEs, and whatever it be, so that we can enhance our productivity. Well, in order to do that, in order to enhance our manufacturing unit, set up more and more industries and factories, one more point we need to be very focused upon and to consider, that is, by setting up of more industries and factories and manufacturing units, we are going to produce more and more carbon footprints. That is a truth which can never be denied. More and more industries, more and more manufacturing units will result in more and more emission, whether it be air pollution, be water pollution, or solid waste. But India has signed a treaty. If you can remember and recall, India has signed a treaty, the Kyoto Protocol and the Paris Agreement, and India has signed and ratified that India is abide to follow the instructions of the agreement, which says that we will be determined to keep the global temperature not to rise above 2 degree centigrade per year. This is the most important point specified in that agreement. Every country which has signed the protocol is abide to not let their nation increase the global temperature by 2 degrees centigrade. They have to keep it under 2 degree. It's a very significant move that was taken under Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement, because after all, we humans are the biggest carbon footprint printers of this on this planet. We actually produce pollution, and we actually are the biggest emitters of carbon footprint. So if on one hand we try to set up more and more industries to stabilize our productivity, to enhance our productivity, and to provide more and more employment, more and more job opportunities, on the other hand, what we are going to do, we are going to fall apart on the protocols that were that were signed by India, be it Paris Agreement or Kyoto Protocol. Setting up of more industry will eventually lead to more carbon emission. That means rise in global temperature. So in that way, we will be actually contradicting the treaty that we the Indians have signed in Paris and Kyoto. And let me tell you about something more about this. While signing this treaty, there was a time when America used to say that humans are not the carbon emitters on this planet. This absurd justification came from the United States. Eventually, it also joined the agreement. So this is the one significant point that need to be actually discussed upon and talked upon, that how we will be managing setting up of more and more manufacturing units and industries, besides keeping the emission under check. So that was about Paris climate change and Kyoto Protocol. Let me tell you about Davos. Davos convention was held in first month of this year, January 2020, where PM Modi has actually told that India is looking forward to be world's manufacturing hub and one of the most demanding country in the world due to its manpower. So let me tell you about Ian Bremmer, who is a political scientist and founder of the Eurasia Group. He has said that after Davos 2020 meeting was being concluded, he had said that India's image has taken a hit from Modi's nationalist policies. India's perception around the globe has taken a hit since PM Modi prioritized Hindu nationalist policies over economic reform. This is the statement which is quote and unquote by Ian Bremmer, political scientist and founder of the Eurasia Group. And he also added that human rights violations are on rise in India, and it's being actually overlooked by the government of India for its radical intentions of setting up of Hindu Rashtra. So in its report, it tells that it is a report which is published on annual basis. It tells that Eurasia Group has listed Prime Minister Narendra Modi's policies as the fifth biggest risk to the global economy. When we talk about a certain issue, we should actually emphasize upon finding both sides of the coin. Rather speaking only positives or rather speaking only negatives won't actually solve the purpose. We need to find the dark side and the brighter side of any issue. Sorry for the interruption, friends. Some intrusion happened into my room. So we were talking about Davos. So in Davos, so it is very important to look at both sides, be it darker side or the brighter side. So it is laudable that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has acknowledged that there is an urgent need to decrease the carbon footprints being emitted by the human beings, and India became one of the nation that went on to sign Kyoto Protocol and Paris Agreement. That is a very laudable thing, and one pragmatic and one intelligent person should do that. But at Davos, let me tell you, at Davos, where World Economic Forum meeting was held in January 2020, at Davos, Prime Minister Modi, in his statement, told that, let us, I am quoting and unquoting him, let us create a heaven of freedom where there is cooperation and not divisions, fractures. While addressing, he used these words. Well, this speech was being delivered in January 2020, but prior to that, Kashmir went into complete lockdown on August 5, 2019. So you may see that contradiction in his statement. In Davos, he is saying, let us create a heaven of freedom, and prior to that, Kashmir was already under lockdown initiated by the government of India, by the center, by the union government on 5th August 2019, and that lockdown is underway. Still now it's underway. Now the whole nation, whole planet is under lockdown, citing coronavirus pandemic. But Kashmir is under lockdown since 5th August 2019. And the reason behind that is that scrapping up of Article 370, abrogation of Article 35A from the Constitution of India, that gives the special status to Jammu and Kashmir, presuming that there will be unrest and violence in the valley. Government imposed a complete lockdown, and many people were arrested on the basis of just judgment that they may prove to be harmful for the peace and society, when Article 370 and Article 35A of the Constitution of India will be abrogated by the Parliament of India. Before that, you know that you must be knowing that there used to be a coalition government of BJP and PDP in Jammu and Kashmir. Mehbooba Mufti used to be the chief minister of the state J&K. Very strategically, BJP moved a ploy, and it actually brought the PDP government in minority in Jammu and Kashmir, which actually resulted in falling of the government in the state. After that, there were no elections being held. The reason was given that time is not appropriate to hold elections in Jammu and Kashmir, because there is no sustainable environment. When it will come, elections will be held. This was the statement given by one of the election commission representative, and eventually, after the government came into minority in Jammu and Kashmir, governor's rule was imposed, and governor's rule kept on running until center cleared the abrogation of Article 370 and Article 35A from the Constitution by moving the bill in both sides of the Parliament and getting nod on it. So Kashmir is under lockdown from 5th August 2019. And one more thing I would like to point out, that if a state has to be transformed into union territory, there is a protocol, a constitutional protocol, which says that the state government has to give it assent to the union for forming of union territory. But when it comes to the Jammu and Kashmir, as we know that before it was made union territory, Jammu and Kashmir along with Leh and Ladakh became the union territory. The governor's rule was the governor's rule was imposed, and there was no state government in power. So technically speaking about it, it was not very fair move by the union to actually ratify their intention of scrapping up of Article 370 and 35A, which was one of the agenda in their election manifesto, which they fulfilled. And I'm happy that a political party has fulfilled an agenda which was published in its election manifesto. So these things are contradictory. While in Davos, Prime Minister Narendra Modi speaks about heaven of freedom, but he doesn't look at his own country's crown, where it is undergoing lockdown, where actually innocent people are being arrested, they are being tortured, and there is no basic amenities being provided to the people. What's more shocking to know is that the time lockdown came into effect in Jammu and Kashmir, immediately it was ordered that none of the media, be it print media, electronic media, or web media, none of the media is allowed to report upon the issue of Kashmir. Have you seen any latest news about Kashmir from any media houses, be it a right inclined media or a left inclined media or a center media? Have you seen any news from any of the media houses, any of the publication house? This is actually stifling the voice of the people and actually pulverizing the fourth pillar of democracy. This is a perfect example of it. So, not to my surprise, these things are happening in India, because since last 6 or 7 years I'm getting used to it. Silently things are happening here. It's okay, eventually everyone get used to it. So okay, we have talked about Paris climate change and Kyoto protocol. Yeah, now do you know that center has I actually don't remember the year exactly. Let me see. Yes, in June 2014, when Modi government came into existence for its first term, a Namami Gange named program was actually introduced. It was a flagship program whose motive was to clean the river Ganga from its origin to where it ends. That means the whole Ganga shall be cleaned, and a handsome fund of rupees 20,000 crore was granted for this project. And one so-called lady, look, I'm forgetting her name. She was the minister of this program. She was taking care of this program, heading this program. What these 20,000 crore rupees and 6 years could not do, have you ever wondered? Nature has done itself, cleaning the Ganga. just in matters of 25-24 days, since the all human beings are being locked down in their houses. There is no pollution emission is going on in any of the rivers have become cleaner, air has become breathable. You can actually see the stars in the sky which were not visible before, due to tremendous pollution that we were living under. So this is a kind of thing that is nature doing with itself. Nature is actually resetting itself when there is no human interference, and there is no any sort of deforestation going on, or global warming things happening around the world. So we are already on the verge of May, the one of the hottest month in India, and I could actually feel that there is actually no need of turning on the air conditioner. Fan is enough. If anything more required, then a blower or cooler is more than sufficient. Air conditioners are still off. That is a very thinkable thing, that by the starting of April we used to turn on our ACs because there were cars on the roads, industries were running at its peak, pollution was happening due to these things. So naturally temperature used to rise up, but now that is not the case, and we should be thankful for the nature to show that we humans actually were doing loss to ourselves only by interfering its default setting. So friends, besides talking politics and everything, we actually need to understand that being a human being, we should strive more to a pragmatic approach towards a thing. If we are told something to do, it should be our basic nature, and by default we should be inquisitive of it. We should ask that if it needs to be done, then why it needs to be done, what is the motive behind this, and what consequences it will bring along with it when it will be done. But such thing is not happening. Actually we are just falling in a line, walking in a herd of sheeps, being directed by some, I would say, some ringmasters, and the masses are following it blindly, being dumb and deaf. Please raise your voice, ask the questions, and one more thing which I would like to request and pray, that please don't misunderstand the voice of dissent as the voice of enemy. Questions are necessary, differences are necessary, but these differences shall not tarnish anyone's image, shall not destroy anyone's personal relation. That's what I hope, and I also wish that you understand what I have been trying to tell you in this entire video, that bilateral ties with China is actually very very important for India as of now, because India is not in that state where it can all of a sudden set up its manufacturing units and start producing. The gap between demand and supply will deepen, which eventually give rise to a huge crisis. Then there will be hoarding, then there will be shortage of things. People will actually start ransacking the shops, ransacking the malls, etc., from wherever they can find the goods for their utilization. Snap of the ties. I'm not saying India should always be dependent on China. Snap of the ties, but snap it off strategically. Give it some time. First, establish your production units. Let it run. Let's see whether you are able to produce it up to the mark or not. Let's see how efficient it is for the Indian people to buy Indian manufactured goods, because I have seen that one good that is manufactured in India is priced way above than the goods manufactured in China, and they both have the same functions. So we need to actually introspect and need to actually find a solution upon that. Besides that, we also have to take care that we don't become a nation, a country which eventually goes on to become the biggest contributor in carbon emission, because India, besides China, has been facing the worst situation risen due to pollution. Do you remember when uh, winter sets in our nation? Then there comes a phase where smog is prevalent in the air. It's next to impossible to breathe in that air. So we also have to take that point on priority basis also. If we are going to set up more and more industries, more and more production units, then we are also going to enhance our carbon emission. How we are going to restrict it, how we are going to use natural ways of producing energy, such as solar energy and hydro electric energy. These are the issues which actually needs to be discussed upon and to be worked upon. Besides that, we also have to improve our global image. Do you know that what America has said about India? While Mr. Stephen Bannon is lauding Prime Minister Modi, that is one good gesture by him. Just prior to the visit of Trump in India, before that Namaste Trump event happened, US actually blacklisted India from the developing nations list. Are you aware of that? That's a good gesture by US also. Is that? I think no. And recently, US President Donald Trump actually threatens India while demanding HCl, hydroxychloroquine, HCN, hydroxychloroquine, the medicine used for the treatment of malaria. And while demanding, he said that India and America are good partners. I think India will hear us and provide us what we are asking for. If not, India will have to face consequences. So that was the one of a kind of a, you may say, threat given to India. Unfortunately, India provided HCN to America, but Mr. Trump blacklisted India from its developing nations list. So what a great gesture by him. These are the things which we actually need to think upon, be rational, be impartial, then reach to a conclusion that whether it's going to benefit as a human to us or not. First comes the humanity, then comes the religion, then comes the sects and caste and blah 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 blah. When humanity will exist, then only these things can be carried forward, which is unfortunately being carried forward. Besides being human, I think there shall be no categorization of human being. So friends, that's all which I wanted to tell you from my heart, and I wish you all are staying safe in your houses. You all must be living healthy and taking good care of yourselves. With these words, I would like to say bye bye to all of you and wish you more and more power to think logically. Goodbye, take care, be patient, be rational. Thanks a lot. Take care.